under the previous administration, we looked like fools.
We look like fools. An evergreen clip from the human Everclear bottle. The White House is looking to replace Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. I'll give you 2 guesses as to what he did. Actually, if you're a subscriber to this channel, you only get 1 guess. And to frame it properly, let me start off with a personal story. Not a personal story like I have a hemorrhoid, but a personal story about when I hired a guy to fix our garage. I'm somewhat handy, but I've seen enough videos online about what can happen when you start messing with a garage spring. So I said, let's get a guy to come out, look at these springs. I think they're totally shot. And when the guy showed up, I could tell within 5 seconds that he was completely smashed. He was drunk. Showing up to work blitzed and then winging it. It is the Hegseth special. So he began working on our garage. He climbed up on the ladder. And he was so drunk he messed up and one of the springs, it shot loose, went straight through his head and killed him instantly. Right before my very eyes. To this day, in my dreams, I still see that blood. I still see that drunk garage repairman's brains strewn like strudel through my garage. The single turd he had left in his pants when that garage spring shot through his drunk brain and killed him. Okay, so none of that happened. You know why? Because I'm a grown man. Some people have told me. I don't know. And the last thing I would want is some guy who's obviously drunk fixing a door, the biggest door on the house, so that it could fall on me or even worse, my family later on down the road. So of course I told this guy to get lost. And when he wouldn't leave, he's like, I drove all the way out here. I can't leave with empty-handed. So I gave him like an old bottle of brandy, and that seemed to make us square. That story brings me to the President of the United States, the Republican President of the United States, Donald Trump. When I chose this drunken mess, when I chose the drunken mess that came and tried to fix my garage, I did it off Google, right? By the way, I probably don't need to tell you this, but Google is complete shit. Literal drunken garage repairmen can buy their way to the top of the Google results. But that's a whole other episode that one day I will make about how you should never use Google. But Donald Trump, he sat there on his fat ass like he always does. And what a fat ass it is. It is insulated by that big old diaper. And he watched this junior varsity weekend Fox News host slur his way through entire segments. Right? He didn't go to Google. He wasn't scammed by Google. He sat there and watched this guy on the weekends. Because, who watches news on weekends? I don't know. But he did. And he said to himself, while looking at this, he said, that's who I want to be my next defense secretary. Make it happen. In a second group chat on Signal. That's right. Number 2. A drunken text again. This one in the family chat, I'll tell you what's in my family chat. It's a place for us to send pictures of the family. Mostly pictures of the dogs. And then some memes about dogs. That's what a family chat is for. But not when you're Pistol Pete here. No. That family chat becomes a place to share sensitive military information again about a U.S. planned attack on Yemeni Houthi targets to his brother, to his wife, and to the others. Check it out, babe. Look who you're married to. Ain't I cool? I'm about to go bomb some Houthis. Check it out, bro. Aren't you proud? I'm your brother. About to go bomb some Houthis. This dude is texting about literal, actual military strikes. How I send, my friends like Call of Duty clips, right? Oh, look, I almost got a nuke. 3 more kills, I would have got a nuke. It's not that funny when it's real. And this is the party. They will tell you, I don't think they say it anymore. Maybe they've eased up on it, but they used to be the party of personal responsibility. Pete Hegseth, I will quit drinking. That's what he said. If you make me the defense secretary, I'll quit drinking. That's never a good way to start a job. Not as a janitor, and certainly not as the defense secretary. So what does old Pistol Pete have to say for himself when this is part 2? And we know there's a part 3, a part 2, a part 3. I don't know the Latin. We know more's coming now. So what does he have to say about himself?
What do you want to say, sir, about the signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax.
Already
won't give back their
responsibility.
Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. Pulitzers for a bunch of lies.
You mad, bro?
And on hoaxes, time and time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here.
They're probably in the
This
text.
is why
They're
we're
probably in
fighting
the group chat.
fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters.
I don't think they're buying
Hoaxsters.
it.
This group, no, this group right here.
Hoaxsters.
Full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know exactly what it is.
Dude,
So
he's
I'm really
smart.
proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much.
Awesome!
I have spoken to the president, and we are going to continue fighting on the same page all the way.
The defense secretary says he's fighting for the president. He's not saying he's fighting for the troops. Remember the troops? He's not saying he's fighting for the American people. He says he's fighting for the president. Now look at my kids. His kids look really happy. Look at this kid. He ain't buying it. Probably because that kid wasn't included in the chat. Dad, you included the whole family. It's the media's fault. It's the Fourth Estate's fault for reporting on it. Because at the end of the day, the source for all this is Pete Hegseth. He's the one who's putting it on his private phone, right? The party of personal responsibility. The party of family values. They also used to call themselves that. Points, it says, I'm doing it for these kids. You're my kids, right? Yeah, sure, you'll do, whatever. I'm doing it for my kids, but that little girl right there, his daughter, when she was an infant, home with mom, he was raping a woman in a hotel. Do you understand? For him to evoke and say, I'm bragging to my brother and my wife and God knows who else in these chats about bombing people because of the kids. Who is this for? Who still eats this up? Because if it's the party of support the troops, then you are more pathetic than even I. And look, I have zero respect for you now, so that's negative pathetic. If you're still eating this up, come over here, kids. Pete Hegseth, the party of sideburns on only one side of the head. Look at that. What happened to the other side? This guy's so anti-woke, he won't even grow facial hair on the far left side of his face. That's how anti-woke he is.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
Pete says, look, everyone. This is Pete Hegseth's argument. He says, look, everyone knows I'm a fuck up, right? Everyone knows I'm a drunken fuck up. They hired me knowing that going in. He says, this is old news. This is old news that I'm doing this. And he's right. It is old news. Find something new. Pete had one job, right? Don't send war plans to your cousins on chat. That was his one job, and he blew it. You know, he literally blew it. Drunk off his ass. And you could tell this is an AI image that I made because he has a left sideburn. If you would afford me a tiny bit of speculation in regards to what has happened. People ask why I hired a drunk guy to fix my garage. And to be fair, it wasn't by accident. I didn't just happen to find the garage repairman who smelled like Four Loko. Four Loko and drywall. No, I wanted someone incompetent. Conspiracy time, right? I needed someone so bad at his job that I could blame him when that garage door collapsed and destroyed everything in that garage. See, I didn't want a garage. Twist. Are you guys follow me? This is a metaphor we're doing now. I've moved on if you don't know. I wanted an excuse. I wanted my HOA to stop emailing me about code violations, leaving the garage up all the time. I can't close it. I wanted to tell my wife, see, I tried. Now let me play Call of Duty. I'm 3 kills away from getting a nuke to send to my friend. But I needed plausible deniability. I needed someone who would show up to work drunk off his ass. I needed my own Pete Hegseth. Because that's what Pete was. That's what Pete is. A drunk guy fixing the Pentagon garage. And now we're shocked that half the neighborhood has access to the nuclear codes. And to take you on a long walk for a short drink of water, that's what I'm getting at. The real conspiracy, you know? Maybe this is the point. Maybe this is what they wanted. And I'm not talking about Trump. You could throw anybody in front of Trump. You know? I'm talking about Elon Musk. I'm talking about the people running the actual government. Peter Thiel, all of them behind the scenes. When Elon Musk accidentally leaves the back door open to Russian IP addresses, because that's what happened, Pete's too busy sending drone strike memes to his brother-in-law to notice, to his cousins. When you are purposely sharing this information, our information, the country's secrets with a foreign government, you know, you want a garage guy that doesn't ask you why there's uranium behind the snow shovels.
Letter to Congress released today by the nonprofit group Whistleblower Aid about a whistleblower who's just come forward named Daniel Baroulis. Quote, Mr. Baroulis is coming forward today because of his concern that recent activity by members of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, have resulted in a significant cybersecurity breach that likely has and continues to expose our government to foreign intelligence and our nation's adversaries. This declaration details DOGE activity within the National Labor Relations Board, the exfiltration of data from NLRB systems, and concerningly, near real-time access by users in Russia. Notably, within minutes of DOGE personnel creating user accounts in NLRB systems, on multiple occasions, someone or something within Russia attempted to log in using all of the valid credentials, usernames, and passwords. This, combined with verifiable data being systematically exfiltrated to unknown servers within the United States and perhaps abroad, merits investigation. Joining us now is NLRB whistleblower Daniel Baroulis and his attorney, Andrew Bakay. Mr. Baroulis, Mr. Bakay, I really appreciate...
Let me stop this for just a second. So this is the point I'm getting at. If you have someone competent in the CIA, if you have someone competent in the FBI, if you have a competent defense secretary, they'll pick up on this stuff, right? Maybe even expose it, if not externally, internally to stop doing it. But when this guy is just drunkenly texting his wife, see, babe, I'm not at a hotel bar drugging married women with roofies. I'm actually working, okay? Here's the text of what I'm doing. When you have such a degenerate doing it, he's not looking into this.
The systems were being treated by DOGE within NLRB. What we've also seen is that these systems were also connected to Starlink. Now, why is Starlink critical? Starlink is critical because the information that flows through Starlink goes directly to Russia. What has happened was back...
Can I stop for a second? Just to remind you that Donald Trump said Elon Musk fixed the voting machines in Pennsylvania. That's all I have to say. Now that we're talking about Starlink here, we could listen to the rest of it. This is not a conspiracy channel.
Back in last year, the Department of Defense has stopped using Starlink in any way, shape, or form because that is viewed as a direct pipeline there. And this is something that is also being seen in other agencies, not just NLRB. The other thing that's really concerning is that, and I don't want to say that this was done intentionally, it could be
Say it's done intentionally.
Unintentionally, by accident, by those who are working within DOGE, which is they have allowed certain specific critical infrastructure in other agencies, such as within the Department of Energy, where you have nuclear regulatory agencies overseeing our nuclear stockpile, et cetera, where that has been now opened to the open internet. So critical infrastructure throughout the country has unfortunately been provided access to the open internet, which means our foreign adversaries like Russia can and may have access to all of that. So the way that I would frame this is that what Dan is seeing and what others like Dan are seeing within our government is that this is like Chernobyl and them seeing the control systems light up post-meltdown. This is where we are.
Wow! That sounds amazing for this country. This wasn't just a drunk guy fixing my garage. This wasn't just a drunk guy heading up the Department of Defense. This was a guy passed out on the driveway while someone else swapped out the bolts for plastic forks, rewired the electricity to Moscow, and told him, don't worry, you're doing great. And now that the roof's collapsed, no one's paying attention to this crap, right? Open secrets pipeline to Russia expedited through Elon's, internet service. No one's paid attention to that, right? They're blaming the guy holding the beer. The Chud Report.
Trump is the new Adolf.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Make sure you like and subscribe. I made a video yesterday. I know it was Easter. Nobody's watching YouTube on Easter, but it's about us getting back from France. If you want to check it out, it's not too long. It's like 14 minutes long. But thank you to everybody being here. The show's back. Pete Hegseth is back on the wagon, but what's the opposite? He's fallen off the wagon. I don't know what he's doing. And I imagine this, what'd they say? They're looking to replace Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. I imagine this is someone within the administration trying to force Trump's hand by leaking this. I don't see Trump getting rid of his favorite people on the TV. He's on the TV. You know what I mean? Make sure you tune in, and that's all I got. The Chud Report.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools.